Hi, it's Ray from Pro Shaper Workshop in Charlton, Massachusetts. We're back on the little motorcycle fender, and we're going to put some more shrinking on the edges and stretching in the center. We'll get a little more shape going on this. So we're using the shrinking facilitator, and we're going to pop some more on this. We'll bring this out so it doesn't hit itself here. The goal here is to make both sides very even, so trying to watch that the hits are about the same on both sides. I'll blow that middle out a little bit. You try to hit the spots you haven't hit before. Now our goal is to capture all these shrinks. I'm going to get the sharper pointed mallet here. Alright, so we're going to corral these a little bit. There's that side. We might revisit those two. We'll see. And then we'll hit it again with the low crown, or the medium crown rather. See how that pops up those gathers again for another round of shrinking. Hopefully this will be the last one. The rest of it we'll do with the wheel. So now we're getting a pretty nice round profile on there on the top. So, and the diameter's starting to look right. The thing is, if you're not used to hammering like this a lot and it really tires you out, all you got to do is pace yourself so you can hammer for a couple minutes. Just sit down and take a break and you'll get the job done. I think that might do it. Looks pretty even. It's nice and round that way. Looks even. If there's any anomalies in it, you'd see it. That crown looks good. So now what we want to do is actually open it up a little bit. So we want to put this in the wheel, and it's a good idea to open it up first before we put it in the wheel. A lot of people say, looks like something I'd throw away. This is just a good start. All right, let's bring it over to the wheel. We're using the Harbor Freight wheel for this project. That's most of that side. Now we'll just get this. Now we want to pull this down like this. That'll lower the crown in the middle this way, and it'll allow that wheel to really smooth this out because you won't be hitting on the edges of the wheel. And this, somebody asked in the comments again, they must not have heard me, but you can see if you had the adjuster down here, or any wheel that had an adjuster down here, you wouldn't be able to do this. It's impossible. These ends, you have to go across them like this to get them smoothed out. A little bit of dirt. I'm going to get some lacquer thinner. I got a little bit of dirt that came up from the shrinking facilitator. So we got it all de-lumped. Now we're just cleaning up the rest of that shrink residue on the edge. And then we're going to really kind of stretch out the center a bunch. And we should be where we want to be after that happens. We got a request to do a low crown panel, big large low crown panel. In the comment section somebody asked about that, so that will be coming up soon. We're going to get back to the Jaguar door. I'm going to bump up the pressure now. I'm going to really energize that frame. And the English wheel works exactly like a ball peen hammer. A ball peen hammer has a tiny little contact area, and when you strike with that, I think it's about 5,000 pounds per square inch of pressure that you do with just a light swing of your hand or your arm. That's because it's so concentrated. So what's happening here is you have the leverage of this screw, the advantage of the leverage, and we're energizing this frame. And if you put a lot more on this frame, you can only go so much anyways before it becomes difficult to work the wheel. So it will just reach the point of full energy potential sooner with less screws of the adjuster. But right now I could probably go a little more. And Mark had to change his battery, so we're back. So I just loosened up the adjuster a little bit, and there's still some really strong tension on here. So that means that frame is energized. Now with the English wheel, there's three movements. One, the frame opens up like this. Two, the arms, because the C-arm, will go like this. And three, they'll go like that, rotational. So those three movements, it's best to limit them. You can't eliminate them. If you do, it wouldn't act like an English wheel. So, as I mentioned in part 1 of this video, these little Harbor Freight wheels are a very inexpensive way to get into the game, and you can make patch panels for your restoration jobs and motorcycle work with it. If you want to build a whole car, I wouldn't recommend it. Making all like a big roof panel with one of these would be torture, but it could be done. My friend Jerry, who built a scratch-built 120 Special, a lot of it he did with the Harbor Freight English wheel. A lot of it he did here at my shop also. So we're trying to evenly put in a good amount of stretch in the center of the panel here. We're going to tip these edges down and then shrink them with a kick shrinker. That's the only way you'll be able to get them to do what you want to do with them. Alright, now I'm going to loosen up the pressure so I can go a little faster. I couldn't really roll it good at that pressure. And I want to get this a little tighter. It should come around a little bit more, so let me go up one wheel. I think I have one more that's, yes, this one. I tuned another one of these wheels. This one's got a little more crown to it. I'm going to try that one. I'm going to take my gloves off so I don't get the gloves stuck in the wheel. A little more pressure. I hope whoever commented about why I favor top adjusters can see that pretty easily right now. Alright, that's just about coming right around. Make a nice little circle here. We could almost weld that together and have a pretty impressive little circle. So now we're going to open this up. We'll put it on the blanket and open that up and see what it looks like. We got a nice crown on it, and it's pretty even distribution of the curve. The sides are coming up nicely. So the next step is we'll put that nice spine in the middle here. Now actually, let's see, if we wanted a ducktail, we should stretch this out now before But we can mark the center line. We'll get the center line in there. So let me get some dividers, some tape, and a pen, and we'll put the center line in. All right, I have the blue tape in for the center line for the peak, and we're going to do the peak from the inside out. And I started thinking it might be a good time to do this stretch here. If I'm going to put the dovetail back on here, we're going to have to stretch this edge right in here. Let's do that on the edge of the bag. To protect the bag from being ripped, you always put this sacrificial layer there. Now we're going to take and knock that out right here on the edge. And we'll do the other side. So we're undoing the stretch in the middle, essentially. This side a little more. Alright, now we'll wheel that a little bit and see if we can get that to come out.
Now why are you going in that way?
We'll wheel this upside down because that will orient that stretch the way we want it to. Yeah, that should be a good start of it. And then when we tip this edge, we'll use the shrinker, and we'll have to stretch here. We'll be shrinking over here for this edge, but that'll be stretched out in here, and that'll cause that to pop up. But let's put the peak in now. I'm going to carefully feed that through. And this is why I don't like motors on these tipping wheels, because I can instantly reverse. I can go as slow as I want. One pass through there. Let's give it one more. Give it a little more pressure. I think that looks pretty nice. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring these edges down and we'll tip them. So we got to mark them first. Again, we're going to take the dividers, set the dividers for a good skirt size. Oh, we got it all marked. And now let's tip it. Now tipping here, this is the fulcrum, this is the lever. You have to push up on it. That's one side tipped. And just the initial tip, we'll have to do a couple passes. There we go through again. The tape went nutty here. Now this, as you tip it, it'll open up the diameter and this edge gets all wonky and everything, but that's all going to be fixed with the shrinker. Doesn't look like too much right now. It's pretty wonked out because there's just so much metal here. So let's go over to the shrinker and we'll shrink that edge up. This is the Pro Shaper shrinker. We made it here. We've got a couple of them. Got a couple designs for these. It's got Echoed dies, Urco dies in, I'm sorry. And you just go in about halfway on the flange, a little kick at a time. I designed this after owning an Urco for many years. All the problems I had with an Urco, I designed out of it. It's a really nice shrinker. And it uses the stipple dies from the Urco. I have made my own dies also. I've got my own die design in that Urco. The noise you hear is the counterweights on the back just clacking. Now that's that back edge. I actually don't want to shrink that. That was by a mistake. I want to stretch that, so I'll have to go back in there and stretch that out. And the shrinking will actually bring the edge over a little bit too. You want to be careful you don't go all the way in like that because you'll bug that line right there. So. That's as far as I want to go. I want to put a stretch die in there too to bring that ducktail up. So. We got a little bit of twist in it. We'll take the twist out. Yeah, keep it under control at all times. And we're going to weld sides on here. We'll make some nice sides for it. And that margin I gave myself here is just enough to get a dolly in there and make a nice weld. Actually, that clanking of the counterweights is a good indicator of how much force you're giving it, and it can give you a good idea of if you're doing too much or too little just by that beat of the clanking sound. Alright, so let's tip it some more. We got it to almost 90, but not there yet. So we'll give it a little more, and then we'll come over and shrink it again. Okay, we'll get the twist out of that. And we'll get the slapper and we'll slap that down a little. And we'll shrink it a little bit more. You can use an inexpensive shrinker for this, but it'll leave a lot of marks unless you have the dies stippled. Once you use stipple dies, you never want to go back to anything but stipple. I don't use these shrinker stretches for any type of shaping at all. I just use it for detail work. Okay. So now what we're going to have to do, see, as you shrink it, you lose a lot of definition here. This needs to be planished down now. So we can planish that, and it'll also bring the edge down a little bit more. But before we do that, let's put this stretcher die in and see if we can pop that back end out. Dies change out really easy. I put a little pincher mechanism on there with those bolts that holds the dies in place. So we're going to stretch this right here. You can see that ducktail is starting to come out. Starting to come nice. Well, let's we'll have to do some more shrinking and a little more stretching over here. But right now, let's show the planishing hammer where we're going to smooth this flange out. You can actually put some downforce on here too and cause that to get to 90 like you want it. So you can see now I've got the 90. It's smoothing up really nice. I'll be able to weld on the skirts and it'll look really sweet. And the dovetail is starting to show. We got to get a little bit more. We'll have to flatten this out because that's holding it right now. So I was hoping I could bring that right into it, but I think we're going to have to flatten some of that out. And it's getting pretty late here, so I said this was probably going to be a 3-part series on making this. So the next step will be a little bit more planishing hammering and then dialing in the curve. I've got a motorcycle wheel, we'll fit it over it, and then we'll design a side skirt, we'll trim the ends, and we'll weld the side skirts on and planish those wells. So I think it'll turn into a nice little piece, all done on the Harbor Freight wheel essentially. All right, I hope you enjoyed this so far. One more installment, I think we'll finish it. It's Ray from Pro Shaper Workshop. Please subscribe. Please give us the comments, the likes, hit the notification bell, and then you'll get the notifications every time we put up a new video. Tell your friends we're growing this channel. Tell everybody. That's the job you have to do. And remember, metal is clay. It's Wray.